So I've changed my workflow again, and it's thanks to these three new powerful features. It's going to allow you to create these beautiful landing pages in just a few steps and compose. And so you can see it's much more animated, it's much more organic. The feel feels even more premium than before. And we have different animations, different designs, and believe it or not, a lot of these can be one-shotted. And the reason why is because of the new feature that I'm about to show you. So the first new feature is going to allow you to create a giant prompt. And this is not something I used to do before. I like short, but now you can reference. So you can do at, and you're going to be able to reference templates like full code. I'm not talking about, just an image. I'm talking about the entire code here, 50,000 characters, and that's about like 1,000 lines of code. You can also reference components, and you can search for buttons. And on top of that, you're going to be able to reference multiple, pieces at once. So I want this button, I press shift, and this button, or I can also search for a hero section and I press shift, and just like that, I'm able to reference multiple components at once. So the second feature is to be able to do image generation. So for example, AI likes to generate these logos with just text or really cheesy icons. So what I do is I select this. I'm gonna set the size using pixels. So 120 and then 36, which is very standard. And I'm gonna remove the text and I'm gonna put an image. So as you know, we have, 20,000 assets that you can use, including logos. And you're going to be able to use all sorts of resolutions. So for example, I can use a logo like this one. And then I'm going to click on the image generation right here. And we are the only platform that is using Ideogram. From my experience, is the best one and the one that gives the best typography change. And it's especially good to change this existing logo. Again, we have so many that you can use as a template. So here I want to change this to Aura, or in this case, Foundry, and I'm going to generate, and it's going to give me 4 different ones. And it's going to take a little bit of time. Now, once this is done, you can see that we have 4 beautiful logos that I can choose from. And, let's say I really like this one right here. I'm going to apply to element. Now, keep in mind, this is uploaded to your assets. And voila, we have this. We have our new logo from a text, from a plain text, and I can also remove background directly in Aura. So all of this happening without you having to move back and forth between Figma and and different other tools. So in this case, it removes the background, and voila, I have something that works against any background. So the third new technique that I love is the new background option, but not just any background options. We're talking about the ability to alpha mask. So for example, I can change for a background like an abstract, like an earth here. And you can see I can change the brightness, I can change the opacity, and also the blending mode. So if it's normal blending mode, then it looks a little bit like this. Maybe it's a little bit too much for your background, so you can reduce the brightness, or you can change the opacity, and also you can change the alpha mask. So for example, if you want your background to be more adaptive against mobile and tablet resolution, normally it looks like this, and there's kind of a lot of cutoff, and also it's in the way of this UI here. And with alpha masking is just so much better. Look, it just fades and it looks so much more professional, even with a background that is so much more busy in this case. And you play that with the blending mode and all that stuff. It makes it so much, it gives a lot of life, and it gives you a lot of manual control over something that AI doesn't do very well upon its first generation. And of course, we have components that have already embedded these techniques for you. But if you want to try something new as a designer, especially, this is really powerful. And you can see, I can really, really play, the opacity and all that stuff. And also alpha masking, again, something that is not available in most design tools, at least manually, right? Like, unless you want to download a plugin or something like that. But in this case, this is built in Aura. And you can see here, I'm using alpha masking here. If I don't use the alpha masking, it's just gonna look really, like, kind of like, doesn't always fit. And also sometimes you want to create something a lot more engaging, a lot more flexible. And so with the alpha masking, now it's just an option. Look at how easy it is. So I can just change this little slider, two-way slider, from left and from right. And I can also change the angle of the alpha masking. Isn't that beautiful? Usually this takes me so long to just, change this and get it perfectly using a masked layer. But in this case, you just slide a few things. And yeah, this is one of the things that I always wanted to use in the design tool, but now that I'm building my own design tool, it's just possible. So with this out of the way, we're ready to start from scratch and kind of like learn about the ins and out of all of these techniques and build new UIs from scratch. All right, so let me give you an example of a full UI that's really generated in one massive prompt. And I'm going to show you the prompt, what it looks like. So this is the first prompt. Creating landing page for a coffee roaster site, rustic style, and then I'm starting to really reference the template or the chat creations that you have done in the past, so the iterations and the designs. You can reference multiple kinds of things. So I want this button. So this is the button style that I want. I also want sections. I want these images. So what it looks like in terms of coding, this is the button. This is what it looks like. This is the hero section. It's not able to capture the background in this case, but it has the code. If you look at the code, it's right there. And AI, as being AI, needs context, and the context is code. And that's just the most powerful ways to do it. And here I want these testimonials, like cards like this, right? And this is what comes from, as you can see here, a white, and black layout into something that is like this. So, now it's kind of like cooking everything together, right? Like we're letting AI cook. We're just giving the ingredients, and it's just giving me these colors for me. And then I want the feature card, so it gives me this. And then we also have more sections. And then we finally have the logo that I want to start with, the images that I want to start with. And again, this is all code, right? It's not because it's an image, it's not code. It's just that I'm referencing the URL of the image. And voila, like this is the template that I started with, that I wanted to remix and cook. And now we have the whole thing here. So what does the first version looks like? So this is kind of like the final version after some minor edits. And that's it. This is what it looks like. The first prompt already gives me this beautiful landing page. And now I just need to sort of like edit the image a little bit, change what I don't like or like. And yeah, with this, I'm able to one-shot these landing pages and also get the right buttons, right? Because no matter how hard you try, right? AI is never going to give you these crazy buttons right here. It's not going to give you these crazy border gradients like this. It's not going to give you these crazy animations or marquee effect. It's not going to give you these more creative layouts. It's really good at generic stuff. People call it the AI slobs. For me, an AI slop, if you know how to do it properly, can turn into something that is so much more human and much more polished. Now, I'm not saying that you need to spend a ton more time, but you need to be smart about it. And I'm going to show you how to start from scratch. Now, FYI, the best way to get creative, I already showed you multiple times, but also now it's part of the prompt builder. So for example, I created these like preset ones to create an iPhone frames or, for iPhone parallax animation, all that stuff. But also this is really important. Create the hero section, and then include the screenshot. This is my favorite way to start, is to start with the hero section. And that's allows you to be a lot more creative. But today, that's not what we're going to do. We're going to use the new compose and referencing. So I want to create a landing page, right? And then I reference the template. And I can use any of these templates. Now, keep in mind that it's very expensive for us because the more that you input tokens, the more it costs us in terms of API cost. And a lot of people ask like, why is Aura kind of like $20 a month now? Well, that's why, because we read the code every single prompt that you do. So sometimes we will have a super large site. So yes, you can do that with template, but what I recommend is to use the remix feature first and do it from there. So remix full template first. But otherwise, what I recommend is to start with the hero section, or use components, or use small templates. So some templates that are smaller in size, and here we do have a limit of 100,000 character, just because otherwise it would cost way too much. So for example, I can go with a smaller template like this one, but also I can use a chat from a previous. So for example, the one that I showed you has just a hero. And the reason why I'm using this one is it only has 31,000 characters. And so I'm going to need, space for the other elements such as components and buttons and images. So I'm going to start with this one. And, this is my starting point. And AI is really, really good at being consistent with existing code or design. And so what we're going to do here, we're going to say also, I want this button as the main. And so I'm going to go to components and I'm going to search for button. Again, we have so many options. And you can play with them before. You can also use your keyboard to navigate, and to search. So as soon as you type at, then you can search right away. So for example, if I want this button as the main, and then I want this section, this is super important because we only have the hero section, and these are the sections. And then I'm going to reference the section, and then I have so many sections, right? We have, so let's say I want this one, and then I want, so I can also press shift. So press shift, I want this one. Make sure to search for section. So again, I want this one. And let's say I also want this one and this one. Now I'm at 79,000 characters, so that's pretty good. And if it already has images, then that's fine, but I can also reference different images. So for example, I can say for avatars, I want, and then I go to assets and I search for portrait or headshot, and then I press shift and I want all of these images, boom. And for, bigger images or general images, I want something like a 3D or something. So let's say landscape like this. So I'm going to press shift, this, and this. So this is pretty good, and maybe I'm missing a footer. So for the footer, I'm gonna search for footer, and I'm gonna go to components, and I'm gonna, find one of these footer that I like. So let's say this one. And finally, another thing that I want is the styling. I can also reference animation. And so this is a new feature. It's called code snippet. So I want all to be a border gradient. So border gradient is a very specific technique that is not many designers use all the time, just because it's very hard to do in code. But in this case, because we're using code snippet, I'm going to be able to just, these are code snippet that I put for everyone to use, and you can reference this to your to your AI. So in this case, I'm going to use the border gradient code snippet. It already has the instructions right here, which is really important, because once you have the instructions, then the AI is going to read that every single time that you prompt, because it reads the code base. Therefore, it reads all of the code, but also the instructions, the comments. In this case, this is exactly how you use the border gradient in terms of step 1, 2, and 3. And then I'm going to include that. And then finally, I also want to animate. So I want to animate, and then I'm going to include the animation keyframe. And this is, again, a very specific technique for animation unscroll and animation keyframe. And the reason why it's important is because AI has different ways to animate things, and it's not always consistent with animation. And so that's why the code snippet is so powerful. And there you go. Look at all of these, ingredients that I'm gonna let AI use to cook. And so it has all of these, code snippets. It has all of these images, all of these components and template and references to my previous chat. And there you go. Let's see how it goes, but let's hope for the best. The other thing that is really cool also, that is I can use Claude 4.5, and I generally prefer 4.5 for, the smartness of the AI, but I use GPT-5 just because it's better at UI, at being creative, especially image to HTML. So we're going to generate this using Claude 4.5, and it's just doing everything live. I didn't mention some things, so it's just going to use the hero section existing brandings, which is called Arc Suite, and it's just cooking, right? And you can be a lot more prescriptive. You can say, oh, I want this to be an email app, I want this to be a to-do app, I want this to be a coffee landing page, whatever that you come up with. And it's just gonna try to cook with all the ingredients that you give it. And there you go. This is how AI cooked my ingredients. And look at that. It pretty much did everything that I asked for. And of course, I can, replace this with an image of a UI. It gave me the border gradients. It gave me this button that I selected. It gave me the hero section. Of course, it changed a little bit just because it needs to normalize with everything else. It gave me the exact sections that I asked it to use, including the components. It gave me, remember all of these sections that we used. And because these sections already have the interactions, when you scroll, you can see that it's also applying that. The only difference is that it's going to sort of like reorganize the code. Sometimes the components is going to put the styling inside just that component space. But now it's probably going to do it the proper way, which is to put it in the head. And so, it's doing all of that stuff. And on top of that, if you're not, by the way, I'm not cheating here. I'm not editing anything. This is the first prompt. The first prompt. I just want to repeat that. This is the proof. I didn't edit anything. So, and you can even see here the entire prompt that we just did together. So I want this button, I want this section, footer, as well as the images, and finally we have the code snippet in order to get the animation, right? So we have the animation on scroll, we have the animation keyframe, and we also have the border gradient. And so, and then we're referencing another chat. I haven't published this specific template here, so that's why it's part of my chat history, but it's not part of the templates yet. That's why it only has a hero section. And so you can see I'm not cheating at all. This is the first prompt. I haven't done a single thing, and yet we have something that is far more polished than a lot of the websites that you see out there that people spend days and weeks on. But we did it in one shot, and I could have been a lot more prescriptive. I could have said, oh yeah, this is a newsletter page. This is a doctor website. Whatever it is, it's just going to normalize everything together with the styles that you ask it, with the components and the code, and also the animation. Look at that. The animation on scroll, right? That's so cool. And the border gradient, again, a super difficult technique that you won't even find on Figma or Framer by default. I'm sorry, it does have on Figma, but not on Webflow or any of the, site builder. But we managed to do it using AI, and it did it, just perfectly. Look at this beautiful border gradient. And keeping in mind that everything we do here is in code, right? So it's not just design. You're not going to make a developer cry by doing this. We are the main culprit of design code, right? Like when we design stuff in Figma, we go all the way. We love these border gradients. We love these animations. We love these effects. And finally, because AI does all the cooking and all the coding for us, we're able to really, really, crank, the results, and we're getting something far more polished and far more creative. All right, so from here, what can we do, right? And this is, my general workflow. I like to edit things, but we also want to show you a new feature that is called edits. So this is going to, instead of always regenerating the entire code, which can take a lot of time, especially if we have a lot of code, because sometimes we get to 5, 6, 7, 8 sections in a landing page. Edits is just gonna do it. If you ask for just changing an image, just gonna change that image. That's it. And that's exactly what we want. So for example, again, we can do all the referencing, the composing in here as well. So for example, I'm gonna say, okay, I want to change the image for the hero to, and I'm gonna set asset, and I'm gonna search for interface, and I'm gonna search for one that I like. So we have a lot of interfaces here that we can use. So let's say I really like this one, and what else? I can change. I already did that in the first prompt, but I can say something like add 2 more images in the section called features, and I'm going to reference the images. So for example, I'm going to set this one, and I'm going to set this one. And so let's hope for the best. I'm going to do this. It should be a lot faster because it's just a few minor changes, and I don't have to rewrite the entire code by doing that. So it's generating right now. It's already replacing the code. All right, so obviously we can, edit all of these things manually. We can also, quickly do a font pairing that we like. So for example, I really like guys. We can remove the unused fonts. AI tends to kind of bring all the fonts that we need. And so we can also set it to regular, medium. We can set the font to be tighter. And again, we can replace any of these colors really easily. So for example, if you don't like, indigo, I can go with another color like violet. And, you can really play by, working and replacing different elements of the design. This is starting to look pretty good. I can definitely, change these images one by one. It's really, really easy. I can even, generate the images. So for example, I can say, I want different, different versions of it. I go to Ideogram 3 Remix, and it's just gonna regenerate that. Now, it's not as good as Midjourney, but it does a better job at typography than Midjourney. So right now, I'm just taking an existing image and I'm gonna, see if I can generate something better. And it's not gonna give you one, it's gonna give you four. And that's why it's expensive for us, right? Like, we're not trying to make a ton of profit here. And believe it or not, if you look at the API cost for any of these things, such as, inputting 100,000 characters, it's very costly for us. GPT image one is very costly. Generate images with 4 images is very costly. So you're getting your money's worth, okay? That's what I'm trying to say. So now we have these, you can also preview it, how it looks like. Again, it's not bad. Some of them are really good. I really like this one. And this one is not bad as well. You go with the flow, and you can also upload your own image. So this is also a new feature. And yeah, I'm gonna apply this one. It's not bad. I can do the same with any of these, the avatars. So let's say I want this specific style of people or headshot, and I want it across, and I want to say, oh, change this to a person in their late 30s, a man or a woman. You can do so many things with this, and it makes your life so much easier. And in this case, what I'm gonna do is to change the logo. So right now, as I mentioned before, AI really, really likes to give you these basic logos, icon, text. So what we're gonna do here, we're gonna remove the text and we're gonna set the size. If you know Tailwind, you can do square brackets, 120 pixel, and square bracket 36 pixel. These are kind of the general things for Tailwind. Um, you know, and then I'm gonna set BG center, and so and then finally I'm gonna set the image. So now I'm gonna search for logo, and I'm gonna look for a general logo that I like. So for example, these are all the logos that we have, and there's just many. And the goal is not to get exactly the name that you want, because we can change that using generate image. The goal is to get, the vibe, sort of like the style, the serif or the sans serif or whatever it is. And we have even more that are generated through um, Ideogram, which is even better in terms of the type of typography that we can get. So you can see here, and of course I can say, change to black and white and all that stuff. And yeah, I'm gonna go with, let's say, this one. And once I'm done using it, then I can generate it. So I'm gonna select it again and generate it. And I'm gonna change it from glass to arc and generate it. So again, you pick the logo that you feel that you like, you change the prompt based on the coloring or the approach, or you can even ask ChatGPT to rewrite the prompt for you using Command and E. And by the way, this is the new browser by ChatGPT. I've tried all of them. I've tried, Perplexity. I've tried, I've tried Comet by Perplexity. I've tried the new one by the Dia browser. And I believe that ChatGPT has the best one just because of the AI, but also the agent mode, which kind of control your browser. I really like that. So again, these are the result. I can generate more, but I think this looks pretty good, right? Like, you know, let's say you don't have a designer or you don't have time, you just want to kind of like mood board it, if you will. This is a great way to do it. And instead of like spending so much time kind of like doing everything manually and searching the web and looking for, hundreds of different logos, you do it, multiple times until you get exactly what you want. And we have the library for it. So you can look at our library and we can just sort of like browse through what you like. And finally, what you want is to remove the background because you want this to be fitting. Let's say you have like a sticky header and stuff like that, then this is the correct way to do it. So remove the background and voila, it just fits perfectly. And then I can save. So this is what I have so far. It has the animations, it has the logo, it has the perfect, it changed the fonts, it changed the colors that I want. And now we're going to look at the background because there's just so many things you can do with the background. So now I'm going to go to assets. And again, you have a lot of these really, really popular preset background that you can add to your design. Just make sure to click on play to see the background. And oftentimes you're going to see that it's kind of like in the background. And for those who are a little bit more technical, you might need to go to the layers in order to understand, and just turn, at the very least, to understand how to hide and show different elements. This is not too complicated, I hope, for those who are beginners out there. But you can just, show and hide to see what code controls what. And, someone said in one of the comments, this feels like a tailwind design tool. And honestly, I thought about it and I was like, yeah, this is absolutely true. This is a tailwind design code. And, a design tool, and you learn along the way. All of these things are not reinventing the wheel. These are real code that exist. And a lot of people also said, for example, one thing that is really, really cool about Aura is that you can export your template. It's not like if you go to Framer or Wix or Webflow, it's really attached to their platform, right? You have to edit using their system and all that stuff. Here, you can just export the whole thing, upload that to Netlify or Vercel, and then you have your website. You're not attached and linked to this platform specifically. You can even just export that and include that in V0, Lovable, Figma Make, whatever you want. We're not attaching anyone. We don't have strings attached. So this is what we have, and we have the background. Just keep in mind that you have to play, and then I'm just going to delete the extra sort of thing. But another thing I can do, if for those who don't know, you can use the Z index to put it on top. So for example, I can set it to 30 and now it's on top, or even 20. But, I can use blending mode such as screen, and look at that, right? Like, so this is pretty cool. But at the same time, when it's on top, it's also not interactive. So what you want to do is to set the pointer events to none. And there you go. So now I cannot touch the background even though it's in the front. And the difference also is I can set to fix or absolute. Fix means it's always going to stick regardless of where I scroll. Absolute means it's going to stay where, where it was positioned before. So as you can see, this is on top and all that stuff. You have so many options in terms of this, and it also has the alpha masking, which is really important, especially if you use something like a background like this one, right? So you can see here, if I don't have alpha masking, it's just gonna look out of place. But with alpha masking, it feels so much more, in tune with the actual background and UI. So we have so many options. Like I said, you can play with all of these. You can play with the free ones, the pro ones. And also one thing that I love is to use an image. So for example, one of the ways is to go with texture. And I love this. So texture allows you to set, so I'm going to set to auto, and auto usually for the background is best to use a 16 by 9. And so I'm going to use, these that I love, these backgrounds right here. And I believe that it's now back to the background. I'm just gonna do the other way, which is I'm gonna delete the overlay that is kind of hiding my actual background. I want it to stick in the back. I don't want it to be in front. I could, but in this case, let's go the other way. I'm gonna select this one and I'm gonna delete it. And there you go. This is what I have, but we have the ability to use the, soft light, right? And look at that, it's so much better. And um, yeah, we have the alpha masking, we have the opacity, we also have the brightness, and we have the saturation as well, which is useful if you don't want the coloring from the background. So, let's say you change to, I don't know, something that is red, but you don't want the reddish color. You can set it to saturation and it's just gonna fit a little bit better. So many different techniques that you can use. So I'm gonna stick to this one. I think it's really cool to have that sort of noise background added to my design. And I have a lot of these texture that I can use that can really fit, the style that I'm looking for. I can set the opacity to be less, and voila, I have like a noise background. But the one that I like is this one, and it's kind of like wavy. And I can also invert, right? This is kind of cool. Invert, and voila, this is, very unique. It kind of gives this vibe. And the other thing I want to show you is that you can set a background video. In order to do that, you might want to go to Midjourney. In order to do that, you might want to go to Midjourney. And so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to select the image, and the image that I have is here. And notice at the bottom here, I can click on it and I can open the original image. Now, if you're a pro user, you can download the full resolution. And using that image, I'm gonna go to Midjourney. So I'm gonna drag and drop that image right here. It's going to be added to my images, and then I'm going to select this for the starting frame and ending frame. And so for motion, we're gonna, we're gonna describe the video that I want. So wavy, motion, slow, and yeah, let's hope for the best. And so it's going to do this. And there we go. It took about 2 minutes, but it gave me this. And keep in mind that I'm just doing it on the first go. I'm doing it live, and it might not be exactly what I wanted, but it's not bad, right? Like it looks pretty good. I can get better. And I'm just gonna use this. So I'm gonna right click, copy video URL. I'm gonna go back, and this is where unfortunately I have to reset to remove the image because it's gonna be a video, so I'm gonna have to redo these things. But I remember them, that's fine. And I'm gonna remove this, and I'm gonna go to video. I'm gonna paste the URL and enter. Now it's giving me that beautiful wavy background. But since this is really I'm just gonna use like soft light. It's gonna be very subtle, which is much nicer. And a little bit less brightness. And yeah, look at that. We have a beautiful animation. Make sure that it's set to absolute so that when I scroll, look at that. I didn't have to rely on, the more complex options that I would have, such as WebGL or do everything in code. This is a video, and it gives you a lot of flexibility to generate what you want using AI. And so you can use blend mode, you can use inversion, you can use all sorts of technique, and also it's pretty performant because it's a video. And look at that. I mean, we did everything in just a few minutes. Um, yeah, AI did most of the work, and the templates did most of the work. And so, of course, I can go a lot deeper. One thing, before we go, one thing I do want to mention is that a lot of people like to use, oh, I just realized this is very purple. I tend to say that we don't want to use purple, but yeah, it does happen to be purple, but that's why we make it easy to change the colors, right? So if you want something a little bit more, orangey or reddish, yeah, the little extra manual human effort is what really takes you to where you need to be, and to be more unique. And yeah, like you can change from slate to neutral, and this is a little bit more neutral now, and the blue I can change to maybe more neutral. And yeah, I can spend a lot more time on edits and all that stuff, but it's looking pretty good. But I'm gonna stick to purple. Sometimes purple is just really good, right? And let me just go back. Yeah, at least it fits with what I wanted to create, especially the template that I selected myself. And that's my fault because I select the template specific to a more purple-ish color. And so, this, by the way, this cutoff here is not because of the background, it's because of the layers. So I do recommend that you try to play, with different one and delete the ones that you don't need. So play with it. Don't be scared, because the more you learn, the better. So for example, this one is what is causing that. And also, if you know a little bit of code, there's also the overflow hidden. So yeah, there's just many things you can do. So instead of like always going to the sidebar and generating everything using the left side, this is really good. The way that I actually work is that this is really good for um, starting a hero and kind of like being creative, starting with one section or the general direction of the UI. And once I'm really happy with the direction, such as the font is correct, the animation is correct, the logo is correct, now I'm just finalizing the touch. And this is where the design mode is just far more powerful. And also in the design mode, you can do a lot of things, right? You can also prompt in the design mode. And a lot of people don't know that. So for example, here, we do not have, an animation here. And so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to select on the section. I'm going to say, I'm going to go to prompt. I'm going to say something like, and we have a prompt builder, by the way. So we do have these presets. So maybe I want something parallax scrolling or alpha masking or marquee loop animation. So I'm going to use that. And I'm also going to reference the code. So let's say I'm going to use the alpha mask horizontal or vertical, sorry. I'm going to delete this one and I'm going to go with alpha mask vertical, and loop with duplicated item for the images. And what I also realize is that Gemini 2.5 is a little bit better in terms of animation. So we're gonna try that and hope for the best. So in the end, I had to reference the component. It wasn't working so well because like you have to understand that AI doesn't always work 100% of the time. Sometimes it works depending on the complexity of the task. Of course, if you're asking for improving the text, it will work. But if you're asking for, a marquee animation like this, maybe AI is going to have some trouble. And you can see that I had to reference the components that has that animation that I want. And yeah, all that's left is just to change the image one by one. And, I can always prompt like for example, change images to, and then set the asset that I want. If I don't want to do it manually, for example, right? I can do it this way, or if I want to save a prompt and save money, which is always always welcome in in Aura, to do it manually. And for those who are more like more comfortable with code, which again I highly recommend, especially with the reputation of vibe coding right now, where a lot of people saying that it's not working, it's really sloppy and all that stuff. Well, maybe you should learn code, right? It's not that big of a deal. At some points, you will get better. And with experience, with more prompting knowledge and all that stuff, you will get exactly to the result that you want. That is not AI slop. And so you can see here, this is the code. You can change it manually, and you can, edit the code. You can prompt. You can edit one by one. And also another feature that we have, again, all of these are new features, by the way. Like it's not weird, you know, I realize that, I take a lot of things for granted. It's not like, but it's actually a lot of new features. Like code snippets is new, the code tab, the edit, and then the family of elements is really really useful for me. So for example, I can find different elements, and also going to code mode. Another feature that I love is to be able to select an element and it's going to scroll to that element. So I select it in the code and boom, it should scroll. It's already here. So let me go to another one, this one. There you go. Finally, we got it. So select the span here. It scrolls there. I go to the hero article here. I think I have to select from the beginning, and the div here. It's just gonna scroll directly. It's going to highlight it. Makes it so much easier to understand. Okay, what goes with what, and so on and so forth. So a lot of things that you can do with this, and I hope you enjoyed it. I haven't really discussed much about the new feature for page, and now you can have multiple pages. So for example, I can create a new page such as features page, and it's going to take my here, and all I need to do is just to follow the instruction, which is change this page to features, for example, and it's just gonna adapt the page to a feature page. And once you're done, so let's do that. I'm gonna copy this prompt right here, and I'm gonna say change this to feature page. I realized that I was still on edit, so I'm gonna do the same, but for default, because I do, like in this cases, if you're doing small edits, use edits. Like for example, you want to change the title and you don't want to regenerate the entire page, do that. It's very easy for edits. But if you're like regenerating the entire page, it's better to use the default, which is, again, regenerating. It's gonna have maximum accuracy. All right, so we're done. Now I'm just gonna play it, and you can see it's just using all the styles, all the animation that we already had. It's just adapting it to a new page with different content. It's doing its best because we haven't specified anything. We're just saying, change this to a features page. And once you have multiple page, now you can just switch between home and this page. And if you want to link them, so if you've used, for example, Framer or Wix or Webflow, then you should know that you can simply link that to the page. So I'm going to link this to this page and then save. And I'm going to go to features and I'm going to link the logo to the home page and then save. So once this is done, I should be able to go back to home, and then I'm going to be able to also I can change the page transition. So right now, it works great, but I can also change it to a page transition. So for example, wipe up and then save. And then if I do this properly, then I'm going to be able to see a beautiful animation between pages. Pretty cool, right? Like for something that doesn't charge you a ton of money for every site that you create, and also allows you to export your own designs and your own code, and all the files, by the way, like, you can download the entire site files. I think this is pretty cool, and I think it's a pretty good offering for $20 a month. And we also have the ability to publish now and update your website. We have a subdomain .aura.build, and be quick, because a lot of these subdomains are getting taken really, really quickly. And so I'm going to check this. I do have to set up a screenshot, and once I have a screenshot, then I'm ready to go. I can publish this and share it with the world. So like this, and now I have my beautiful landing page that I just created with you live and with just a few steps. Isn't that really cool, right? Look at this beautiful subdomain. So I work really, really hard on Aura to make it super easy for anyone who doesn't have any super background in Figma or design, like, a framer, because if you create some of these templates, it takes a lot of time to learn the ins and outs of the features in Webflow and Wix and all that stuff. But here, we're generating everything in just a few steps. We have the new feature for referencing components and assets, template components, code snippets, and chats. So we can see I have all my previous chat that I can reference with the lines of code that takes to reference these, because some of them are really expensive for us. And then we have the ability to generate images from now almost 22,000 images. And you can like, I take so much. You can see all of these are me generating. You can see my name everywhere. Every day it's my habit. I go to Midjourney, I generate the best images that I can find. And by the way, these are not like from other people's generation. These are my generations. So I download them, I uploaded them to Aura so that you can use them, and you can just remix the image, right? You turn this into, a different background color, or different rainbow color, a different gender, a different, headshot or something like that, a different icon. So, okay, I want this to be a settings icon instead, but this style. And then you can remove the background. You can change the colors of the wallpapers and the background for your website. You can change the angle and all. So we want to make it super easy to do all of these in just a few steps directly in Aura, and you can just export everything, and then you can just continue the journey on Lovable to take it to the next level. But we try to bring a lot of these features. Yes, the React components are coming. Yes, all of these, but we're happy with just doing HTML. And the reason why is because when you have HTML in front of you, the code is not scary, right? You don't need to be afraid of coding, because all of this is just basic HTML. You can learn everything. You can, like, you also learn Tailwind, which is honestly one of the best skill, because you don't have to go back and forth between the styles. Like, this is CSS, right? And if I want to learn CSS, yeah, like, I have to go back and forth. But with Tailwind, I can just see, okay, yeah, before or absolute is the equivalent of creating a new style in the head that I have to go back and forth. But with Tailwind, it's just like very concise and very easy to understand. And on top of that, when you create a component in Tailwind, then the whole styling exists in this code right here, versus having to have multiple files. And that's another thing that is really cool with Aura, is that everything just exists in one single HTML file. You don't need to have, like, sometimes 5, 10 React components and libraries that you have to install, and and then you have to start the server and all that stuff. So everything is simple, and it makes it easy for anyone who wants to vibe code to learn the basics of coding, such as using HTML and Tailwind and basic JavaScript, and let AI do 90% of the work, and for you to just do the last 10%. So I hope you enjoyed this this demo and this this tutorial here. And I would love to hear what you think about the workflow
and I would love to also to see what you create with it. And I do believe that with the new Compose tool, you're going to be able to create beautiful, beautiful layouts in just a single prompt. So I'll see you in the next video.